Alright, hello, it's Brian. Today I'm going to be talking about the Game of Thrones Telltale game, which came out several years ago. Telltale originally planned on doing a second season, but they never could because they went out of business. Um, so, in the second Telltale game, you play as House Forrester. It's a house, it takes place in the show universe, but if for some reason none of the characters in the video game ever get mentioned or seen in the show, even though they say it's the same universe and all that's going on is happening at the same time. So like the video game and the show is happening at the exact same times. Like the game takes place like season 4ish, but I mean I guess I can understand why it's not mentioned because the game came out like a year or so after season 4. Uh, so one of the biggest problems in the game is you have Ramsay who comes in the game, and obviously, like they even give you a choice to stab him, and obviously it's not going to work because anyone who sees the show, or honestly pretty much has a brain, knows it's not going to work. He's not going to die in that moment. It's just, it feels like Telltale was just like, it's like, oh, you wanted to kill Ramsay, like all this time, and like we're gonna give you the option, but it's like obviously it's not gonna work. It's just one of those things where it's like I don't know if they were, yeah, I would say they're trolling the fans, obviously. And also the graphics in the game were really not good. When you see some of the video game characters, like it just does not work. I mean, Ramsay, he looks like a bobblehead. I am not joking. His head is, I don't know, something about it just didn't look right. Uh, and other characters like Marjorie, like my goodness, they look terrible in the game. I mean, it does kind of look like them in the show, but not very well. Uh, Obviously, Telltale, they shouldn't have been given the Game of Thrones rights because they're better at making like cartoon or like comic like graphics come to life, like the Walking Dead games, which takes place in the comics. Uh, the Telltale for Telltale it doesn't work. They should have gotten a different company for that game. This game it has some great ideas, some good ideas to expand the lore of Game of Thrones, but it also still just does not make any sense in a lot of ways. For example, the beginning takes place during the Red Wedding, and the character you play as, Garrett, he escapes the Red Wedding, and in one night he somehow gets from the Twins to Ironrath, which Ironrath is in the north. There's just no way that's possible. I mean, even Cersei said in the first episode, it takes a month to get from King's Landing to Winterfell, and Ironrath is like even like it's close to Winterfell. It's like even like higher in the north. So that doesn't really make sense. It's like honestly, it's almost as if the developers are just ignoring their own logic to just move the story, and that's not how you want to do a story. It needs to have rules, and some people might say like, well, Game of Thrones doesn't need to have rules, but it's like, well, yeah, it does, because when characters die, in a way they could come back, like as seen in the show, but it's like, I mean, there are dragons and ice zombies, but you can't have a person just flying out of nowhere like Superman. There are some rules in that world, and teleportation kind of breaks the rules. You can't have characters just teleporting. And we okay, so we meet House Forrester, and honestly, like they're a lot like the Starks. Some people might say they're a complete copycat. I mean, you have the Lord, an honorable Lord, the father of the house. He gets killed early in the game. Spoiler alerts, just like Ned Stark. And then you have the mother of the family, and like both mothers in the Starks and the Forresters exactly the same. You have Rob. You have Mira Forrester, who is a lot like Sansa. Like I mean, pretty much. I mean, they're both even in King's Landing. I mean, sometimes I think developers are not even just trying, honestly. And you even have, like, they even have the same numbers of family members, and you also have Asher, who actually got like sent to Essos, and it's kind of like John being sent to the wall, but he went voluntarily. I guess, but it's kind of like he's the black sheep of the family, so that's the way it is for John. So obviously, when they made the game, they were thinking of, okay, everyone liked the Starks. How do we let's make Starks 2.0 and just change their names just a little bit and not much else. So that's a little weird. It just seems a little bit lazy. But this game is not like the worst game ever, but I would give it a 6 out of 10. It has not really good. It has okay graphics, so that's a problem. And choices don't matter in the game. Like I said, you get an option to stab Ramsey, and it's like, why would you even give them that choice? Fans aren't stupid. They know it's not going to work. Whatever happens there is not going to work. Also, no matter what happens in the game, you get the exact same ending, even though Telltale always says your choices matter and it determines the story. That's not the case at all. Your choices do not matter at all. And a lot of the episodes are filler. There's 6 episodes, and each is like around 2 hours, I guess. That's like 12 hours worth of stuff. But very little happens in the story. Very little. Characters just, go from Iron Rath to somewhere else and then come back. There's not really different locations, or characters don't make great journeys or anything. It's not like the show. It's not like the show where there's multiple characters and they're all doing their own thing. It feels much smaller in the game, so that is a problem. But they did have some good concepts, like the North Grove, and introducing some like magical elements again in the Telltale game. Seeing some magic that we didn't get to see 100% in the show, or it's a little bit different from the show. That's fine, but like I said, there are problems. Characters teleporting, choices not mattering. Why make a Game of Thrones Telltale game if the choices aren't gonna matter? Like, Game of Thrones is all about choices and consequences, but you get the consequences, but like no choice in the matter. Like, you could make a choice and the same outcome happens. It doesn't really make sense. And also, a lot of the characters are not likable. Like, in the game, you have a traitor, and he, like, depending on your choices, he literally gives no reason as to why he betrayed you. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's just bad writing on the game's part, because, like, even there are 2 traitors in the game, potential traitors, and like each one has a good reason for hating the antagonist in the game, but yet they betray the family for the antagonist, and they really had no reason to do it, either of them, and it just doesn't make sense. This game could have been so much better, and I think the fans honestly deserved much better. Fans of Game of Thrones, fans of Telltale games, they obviously deserve much better than this game. So yeah, that will conclude my review for the Game of Thrones Telltale game. It is not the worst game ever. It had some good concepts, but it just needed passion. It needed a lot more work, and when you see the game, you can tell that the company was just not putting the passion in for a project like this. Alright, well, that's going to be all. Bye.